Hey everyone, and welcome back to the OG Spice Guy Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Raju. From candy canes to peppermint bark, from mint mochas to herbal teas, it's the season for that fresh, cool flavor, mint. Today we're diving into what mint really is. We're going to be exploring the difference between peppermint and spearmint, where they come from, and how they make their way into your favorite holiday treats. And later, I'll be joined by our Director of Sales, Patrick McComas. He's a true tea lover. He's going to share some insider tips on mint blends, sourcing, and what makes the perfect cup. So let's get into it. First things first, I have to address one of my pet peeves. Okay?
Yeah.
And that is the myth of mint.
Okay. What myth?
There is no such thing as just mint. Even though it's right here on this bag, it says mint.
Yeah.
This is what our little mint plant came in.
It's just mint. I see it in mint. That's what I see in, like, if I go to regular grocery store, Vaughn's or whatever,
Yeah.
I get a little packet of mint leaves.
So mint is it's a family of plant. Okay?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as just mint. So I'll get like buyers that will send me an email and be like, hi, I'm looking for, 1,000 pounds of mint. And, in the food industry, you have to be specific. So there are many, many groups and types of mint.
Okay.
The two stars of the show are peppermint and spearmint. That's what everybody knows.
Because I'm assuming gum is what most of us spend our time tasting mint.
Mint,
So
gum,
and,
toothpaste.
breath mints for me
Yeah.
are a thing.
Yeah.
Fresh breath is a priority of life.
Yeah.
I'm not embarrassed. Fresh breath's priority in my life.
And so anyway, there's peppermint and there's spearmint.
Yep.
And then there's like ice and all these other kind of extreme flavors of
Yeah.
different mints. Those are all kind of BS, right? There's
I mean, they're not BS. I mean, they're just not as widely used.
okay.
So here's an interesting fact. When you think of mint, you often think of the food industry, but I bet you couldn't guess what is the largest industrial use of, we'll just say, mint.
I would have said gum and breath mints.
No. Anybody
know.
from our studio audience?
Icy hot?
Icy hot.
Icy
Ooh,
hot.
that's good. That's a good guess.
I actually-
not the right
yeah.
answer.
Menthol cigarettes?
Ah, there it is.
Maximus.
Our associate producer, Menthol cigarettes.
Wow. They're the biggest purveyor of mint. They
mint.
buy the most mint.
Correct.
And they use it.
Correct. For the menthol that's in mint, so we'll talk
Get
about that
out.
as we get through. But just to go to show you how big the tobacco industry is. So remember, when we were talking about Indonesia a couple episodes back, we were talking about cloves.
Yeah.
So biggest industry, biggest consumer of cloves, cigarettes.
Got it. Clove
cigarettes. So people like to smoke stuff.
I guess.
Yeah.
Because you would think.
Yeah, you'd think cloves would go into the food industry. No, number 2 largest segment
All
of
right.
consuming cloves is food. Number 1, clove cigarettes.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, so this is already, a riveting discussion.
On mint. Yeah, this is also our holiday episode, it looks
Holiday
like.
episode, so we got our, Santa hat.
It's just that you time it. So clearly we're doing it before the holidays, so we're kind of just needing to ramp up into the spirit a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you wore your holiday sweater.
This is as holiday as it gets. I see that you have is that your ugly Christmas sweater?
Yeah, nice. Thank you. I did wear a sweater on the occasion, and you know what I do is for an ugly sweater party,
Tell me.
I wear a regular sweater like what you have,
Okay.
and then I go get like a really cheesy ornament from the tree.
Okay.
And I just pin it to my sweater. And it's usually, you have like I don't know, we have some old ones from like my grandparents and they're
Oh,
like
yeah.
made of yarn, like
Yeah.
some really cheesy angel thing. And
yeah,
it's just so,
Yeah.
or a sheep or something, and
Yeah.
I put it on it and it's, people laugh at it every time. They're like, that's the worst sweater.
I like it. I like how you come up with these creative things. Very simple, but very creative.
Resourceful.
Yeah, I love it.
Let's talk about mint.
All right, let's do it. So when most people say mint, they're actually lumping together a whole family of plants. So in the botanical world, mint refers to Mentha genus, a group of over 25 different species and hybrids. But the two stars of the show are peppermint and spearmint. So peppermint is that classic, cool candy cane flavor. So it's bold, crisp, intense, and it's what gives you that icy tingle in peppermint bark or holiday cocoa. Whereas spearmint is softer, sweeter, and a gentle herbal flavor. So you'll find mint in teas, cocktails, and savory holiday dishes like lamb with mint sauce. Also, of course, you'll get it in Altoids and gum. Some lesser known plants from the mint family include corn mint, water mint, banana mint, slender mint, and horse mint.
This is a CPG thing that's probably not been touched. And you're naming like a whole brand.
You could do like
mints.
a whole OG Spice Guy line of like chewing gum.
Yeah, or banana mint.
And you could have like a banana mint flavor,
And
horse mint flavor, water flavor.
Corn mint. Dude,
Horse
I'm kind of
mint.
serious. I'm just saying, like, you're always looking for that. Who hasn't thought of the idea for the thing?
Yeah.
And we need to go on brand other flavors of mints.
Mints. All right.
You're welcome.
So when you unwrap that candy cane or sip that minty mocha, you're really tasting peppermint, not some mysterious mint conglomerate. So menthol, okay? So here's where it gets even weirder.
Okay.
Peppermint is actually a hybrid. It's a natural cross between spearmint and water mint. And because it's a hybrid, it has way more menthol in it. So remember, menthol is that cooling flavor. So somebody said earlier, like icy hot,
Yep.
That's menthol. Vicks, that's menthol.
Yep.
And I mean, like, it has way more menthol in it. So for comparison, spearmint has about 0.05% menthol
All right.
content, and peppermint is at least 40% menthol.
Big difference.
Big difference. So you can see why it was hybridized to have a higher menthol content. And so, as we discussed earlier, tobacco industry wants that menthol, and of course other industries as well. But
When they made peppermint,
yeah,
at what point does somebody say, if we mix this with sugar, right, people will like it? Can you imagine it's almost like soda is to some kids where they're like, how do you drink that? It's like the bubbles hurt.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
why would you
spicy.
do that? I'm surprised that ever made it to market,
Yeah.
right? Same with peppermint. If you think about it, like, here, suck on this.
I mean, there's a ton of food science that goes into products that we know and love. So So here's an interesting thing. So menthol is the compound that actually tricks your brain into thinking something is cold. It activates the same receptors that detect coolness, which is why peppermint gives you that crisp, refreshing bite. And this herb travels far beyond the spice rack. So menthol is also used in menthol cigarettes, taking advantage of that cooling property. So it makes that smoke less irritating. I also feel like this is a good PSA that the best way to make the smoke less irritating
Is to not smoke.
to not smoke.
Yep.
So anyway.
Good man.
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah, this is a family show. We got
Yeah.
children watching. On a brighter note, menthol oil extracted from peppermint is also what gives toothpaste and cold rubs like icy hot that cooling kick.
That's cool.
Ha! Da-dum. Sorry. Okay, where did that peppermint come from? So mint, the plant of mint, grows best in cool, temperate climates with moist soil. So around the world, major growing regions include the United States, so specifically the Pacific Northwest. I'm sure Patrick will get into this. Oregon and Washington produce some of the world's highest quality peppermint oil. India is one of the largest exporters of spearmint and peppermint. Farmers in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab cultivate vast fields that supply global tea and essential oil markets. Egypt and Morocco are known for spearmint that are used in teas and Middle Eastern cooking. In Europe, particularly in the UK and France, where traditional mint oils and herbal infusions have been produced for centuries. So you can see it's grown widely around the world. Mint is typically harvested around mid to late summer, just before it flowers. And the reason being is because this is when the leaves are at their aromatic peak.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So remember, it's all about the essential oils that
Yep.
are in here. That's what we're looking for. So once it's harvested, the mint is air dried or gently dehydrated to preserve those volatile oils. So the process is very slow and precise. If you have too much heat, you lose the aroma. And so that's why organic growers often prefer shade drying or low temperature tunnels to lock in that fresh green fragrance. So when you're picking your mint this holiday season, remember, peppermint is for desserts and drinks. Peppermint bark, candy canes, peppermint hot chocolate, and coffee syrups. Spearmint is the softer of the mints. It's used in teas, savory dishes, mocktails, cocktails. Think about spearmint tea, lamb with mint sauce. Even you can add it to sparkling water with some cucumber and mint. So here is an OG Spice Guy pro tip. So if you're buying dried mint, keep it airtight and away from sunlight because light and oxygen are mint's worst enemies. So if you're looking for a fresh mint like we have here, you want vibrant leaves that smell and have that unmistakable fragrance.
Those smell right there. They're real.
They do. I can already smell them here.
I need some because I got this cold.
A little bit of
I
cold.
need a little Vicks.
Oh,
a little
okay.
Vicks Vapo Rub.
And then we'll sing Soft Kitty.
I don't know. Is that something you did with your mommy and your kids? Because
No,
I don't say
looks-
soft kitty.
Jesus, you guys never watched The Big Bang Theory?
No, isn't that funny? I never did.
Really?
Yes.
You give me shit for not
I
seeing
know.
16 candles.
It's the number one. I know. It's the number one sitcom of all time, right?
Is
Big
it?
Bang Theory. Yeah.
More so than Friends.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had
But
no
I've
idea.
never watched an episode. Oh, man. Sorry. All right. Well, we should get to Patrick and hear all about how mint and tea go together. really
Absolutely.
well.
Let's do
Patrick,
it.
welcome.
Welcome to OG Spice Guy, Patrick.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So you guys work together on the reg.
Patrick and I have known each other for probably 10 years now.
All right.
Yeah. So, Patrick, we have some questions for you. Mint is obviously used in a lot of things, tea being a big one. I know you're a big tea guy. So do you judge people who microwave their water to make tea?
I probably have to judge my parents, right?
Oh, Mrs. and Mr. McComas. So tea obviously can be made with all sorts of leaves. So what's the relationship between tea and mint?
Well, mint, as you said, has a lot of different varieties and backgrounds to kind of how it came. In terms of a use of a tea word, I think of Asian tea or, your greens and your black, white tea, caffeinated tea, and then you can go over, you have what pairs really nice with mints as well as yerba mate from, South America, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and some really nice blends go with that.
Let's talk about yerba mate. I see it all throughout social media. Patrick, what is yerba mate?
It's been in the rainforest for thousands of years, used by tribal leaders in Brazil and in Paraguay. I think a lot of people recognize the brand Guayaki.
Yep.
Introduction to us here was probably in the early 2000s, but if you go down to Brazil, you'll see people on the beach using, walking around with jugs, and they have lemonade and mate. They'll mix it for you. And even in gas stations, they have hot water tanks. People will fix it up. I mean, it's very widely used down there. Lots of health benefits, really nice caffeine content.
Yeah.
Really clean plant growing in, kind of in the southern parts of Brazil.
I think this is what's really cool about tea, the concept of tea in general, is when you travel around the world, tea is a big part of culture. Mm-hmm. And that, that's one of the things I just love about working in the food industry is you get exposed to so much different culture. So if you look at, let's just even start in the United States, when you go down south, right, you have sweet tea.
Yeah.
Of course, in England, right, black tea.
Yep.
Pretty big deal. Boston Tea Party, right?
Yep.
Ring a bell.
Yep.
In India, tea, or what we call as chai, is a ritual, right? The way that you make it, it takes process, and you boil it on the stove, and it's like a whole thing. And of course, it's full of a bunch of spices. In Asian communities, China, Japan,
Green tea.
green tea is a really big, and the way that they pour it and steep the leaves, and it's like it's a whole thing. So the culture of tea is really interesting. And so what Patrick is describing is the this yerba mate in South America and Brazil and Argentina. Is you have these gourds, and people will just pack it full of this yerba mate. And all throughout the community, as you're going, gas stations, things like that, you have these hot water refill stations. You just refill your gourd, and you're just sipping on this
That's
all
cool.
day long. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't know what yerba mate. So is yerba mate just a plant, or is it like a blend of teas, or is it just one?
Patrick?
It's an evergreen plant that grows out in the rainforest, usually under the shade of this large tree they have. It's very interesting, but much higher, and it's kind of more of a shrub. And so they pick the leaves, and they hold a nice caffeine content.
Higher than a black tea or a green tea.
Okay.
So if you're looking for kind of a cleaner coffee alternative, that's how I started drinking yerba mate. I was looking for the caffeine, but not.
And weren't like a couple Dodgers into it too, or something? So it got a little trendy.
I think so.
Yeah.
And right now, I think it's gaining a lot of popularity because there's a lot of these YouTubers and whatnot talking about intermittent fasting, and yerba mate also has high contents of chlorogenic acid, which is a fat. It aids and helps in fat burning. So
Got it.
yeah, that's one of the reasons why I drink yerba mate all day long.
Burn that fat, baby.
Yeah. On the topic of teas, Patrick, so what kind of mint do teas use?
You can do herbal blends. One of my favorites is the licorice root. Kind of brings out some sweetness, some cinnamon, and citrus goes really well. Lemon peel, orange peel, especially for holiday blends.
Yeah.
Cocoa shells can make a peppermint a little bit more chocolatey.
Are you using more peppermint in your tea blends or spearmint?
I like them both. It kind of depends. For me, peppermint and spearmint can even go together at times, kind of as a soothing tea. If you have an upset stomach, they'll often be used. I like peppermint a little bit more for my blends, in the sense that, it pairs really well. There's this, while we're on the topic of yerba mate, there's one of my favorites is a cocoa shell, peppermint, yerba mate. The cocoa shells and the peppermint really pair well to bring it out. And it's more of a fall blend that I've seen.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're gonna do something that's a little bit higher flavor profile, like cocoa shells, right? So more of that chocolatey. I think you're gonna want to cut through it with a peppermint.
Yeah. Patrick, I want to come to your place sometime just so you can make me a cup of tea. It sounds like you really know this stuff, and it's good. You don't look like a tea guy. I would say you're, off brand.
He's super into it. I'll share a funny story. So last week when I was in Reno, we had some of our Chinese suppliers come and visit us. And one of the things that they brought was this bag of like authentic Chinese green tea, full tea leaves, just beautiful. And I left it in my dad's office. And so the next day after I returned back to Los Angeles, Patrick texted me and he was like, "Hey, so where's that tea that they brought? Can I try some?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's in Raju's office. Go in there and
Sweet.
get it." Yeah. So he's like super, super into it.
I would have done that if it was like, Girl Scout cookies.
Ooh, that's interesting.
We didn't even say
Yeah.
that. Thin mints and
Thin
Girl
mint.
Scout cookies.
What's in a thin mint? What do you think's in thin mints, Patrick?
Definitely peppermint.
That's what I was gonna say. Definitely peppermint.
Mint chocolate chip ice cream. Is anybody in here a mint chocolate chip ice cream?
That's my favorite ice cream.
Are you serious?
That's all I ever order when I go to get an ice cream cone.
That is interesting. I would never get mint chocolate chip.
That's my favorite. I love that combination of the mint with chocolate. So much so, I was thinking about this morning when I was getting ready for this podcast, that for our wedding, in our little wedding favor bags, my wife put in Andy's mints, Andy peppermint, chocolate peppermints. That was part of our wedding favors.
Patrick, are you a mint chocolate chip guy, or a peppermint patty is also quite a polarizing candy?
I love peppermint patty.
It is, yeah, but a lot of people either like it or they don't.
What about you?
I like mint chocolate chip. I'm
Okay.
not a huge peppermint candy fan per se, but in ice cream it pairs well.
What do you do when you go to Baskin Robbins?
I'm more like chocolate chip cookie dough.
Okay.
I like caramel things.
Okay.
And I would not pick mint. Mint for me is for fresh breath. So I don't consider it food. I was asking about, in Indian culture, I would think mint is used in savory cooking.
It is.
Right?
Yep.
And so mint jelly with lamb, right,
Yep.
is like a thing.
Yep. Because the lamb is so rich and fatty and
Yeah.
almost gamey. You
Yeah.
have to cut through that, and the mint does a great job.
My brain thinks peppermint, thinks dessert.
Yep.
So it's hard sometimes to mix the two. I'm not really a sweet savory in the same thing all the time kind of guy. That's
Fair
all.
enough.
But I have fresh breath.
So, Patrick, can you talk to us a little bit about the way that mint is grown? I mean, I kind of went through different regions of the world, but talk to us a little bit about like what does mint like, what kind of soil climate, things like that, and maybe how does it affect the flavor?
Yeah, it really likes, acidic soil, rich soil, full sun, partial sun. The truth is it'll pretty much grow anywhere. It's very invasive.
Mm,
So a lot of people say, hey, don't, if you want mint for your house, put it in a pot.
yeah.
Don't put it outside because it tends to run,
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
But as the mint goes wild, the flavor, in my opinion, kind of loses itself. So if someone's farming mint, they'll usually let it go 3 to 4 years, and then they'll turn it over, and start again because just the flavor profile just slightly changes, lessens a little bit or gets a little bit more wild flavored than what it started with. Um, the interesting thing is mint will survive down to -20.
Wow. Fahrenheit.
Yep.
That's a heavy freeze.
Right. And it likes 100 degrees. So we'll go from various temperatures and it's a survivor. You'll see it die out on the top, but the roots stay strong.
Interesting. So really robust crop.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like an aspen tree. It's that much. It's one of the unusual herbs that will just take over.
So I have a question, Patrick. So you had mentioned that mint likes really acidic soil. One of the key growing regions in the United States is in the Pacific Northwest. I know you and I often talk about in the Washington State area have some of the best mint farms around. Do you think that's because Washington has active volcanoes and some of that volcano acidity has settled in the soil and created a really fertile environment?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, you have a lot of that, and it stretches down through California as well with Shasta down that whole range.
Mm.
And a lot of that is kind of settled up there, but the soil is definitely rich and acidic and perfect climate. You get a lot of rain up there, so it can really thrive. Doesn't need a whole lot of water base to that, outside of maybe some irrigation in the summertime for the farms, but it really thrives. It can survive through a lot.
So then once the mint is harvested, earlier I was talking about kind of you want to dry it gently. Can you elaborate on that? Like what are some of the drying methods that these farmers, that these suppliers are using?
I think the traditional way was sun drying,
Okay.
and you lose a little bit if you're going through a sun drying process. Really what's kind of taking place now is they like to machine dry it.
Hmm.
And that's a much more controlled way of doing it, and it holds the green color a lot better, the overall oil content better. And then there's a huge fresh market obviously is going into the gum and toothpaste industry for making extracts or oils. And so it's from the drying method to whether you want it fresh, but I would say machine drying is the most recognized.
Got it. So yeah, machine drying would be more like what we would do at HQO and sell a dehydrated mint product. Can you talk a little bit about how do they actually extract the oil from these mint leaves?
Yeah, so there's pressure, machine pressure from various things. There's CO2 extraction is very common, and then oil extraction or alcohol extraction. You know, So they'll use the alcohol to kind of take all the oil out of it,
Mhm.
and it will, you see that with vanilla and a lot of different products.
Like a solvent.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the organic industry, they're going to use most likely pressure because it's a cleaner way of doing it. So just literally putting this under intense pressure, and the oils will be extracted out of the leaves. Patrick, do you have any like go-to mint blends or tea blends for the holiday season? How does mint appear in the McComas household?
Yeah, definitely do. It's, because I know Rob was mentioning how I got into it, why I don't necessarily look like a tea guy. I like cultural stuff, so if we're traveling or, you brought up the Chinese visitors that brought green tea from their province.
Yeah.
My personal go-to is kind of a spearmint peppermint blend. So it's not too much menthol because the peppermint will really drive it up. It's just nice and calm. A little bit of lemongrass, some lemon balm, and a little bit of licorice for a little bit of sweetness. Another one would be, I really like to do peppermint with cinnamon. Like I said, yerba mate, cocoa shell. And I always, licorice just kind of works as a natural sweetener.
Yeah.
So it just sweetens it up a little bit. But that with peppermint is really good.
I'm hankering for a cup of tea, I can tell you that.
Yeah. And it's kind of a cool rainy day here in Los Angeles,
Yeah,
which is few
oddly
and far
enough.
between. Yeah, so
I'm curious what we're doing afterwards for family meal. We
family
got some-
meal. I got something up my sleeves.
Ooh, you do?
Yes, I'm going to be preparing something for the
Ooh.
casting crew today.
What is it?
Well, one of the most famous, uses of mint at the bar is mint mojitos.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, so we got all the stuff here. So sorry, Patrick, you're not with us, but we're going to be making mojitos.
That's where spearmint really shines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so a
that's why we
mojito
have
is
our-
spearmint
Yeah,
because it's
remember,
comes across sweeter. It's less strong, less
it's
menthol.
more rounded.
Gotcha.
So as you're seeing, so remember a couple months ago when we did the Indonesian episode and we were talking about cinnamon, right? And we talked about cassia and true cinnamon. Cassia being kind of that more in-your-face, bold, hot, spicy. What is it? A hot tamales, fireball whiskey. And Ceylon cinnamon is that true cinnamon. It's softer, it's gentler. You're going to see it more in teas. So here we have the same thing playing out again with mint, right? And so people are just commonly referring to it as mint. We're discovering, hey, there's many different types of mint, right? We talked about cinnamon.
I do have one last question for Patrick,
Yeah,
and
let's
that
do it.
is, what is it like to have Jonathan being your boss? I mean, I listen sometimes in on some of your sales conferences just because it's, within earshot sometimes. And what I could hear from your knowledge of teas and even how you talk is you guys are spice guys, right? You sell the stuff. It's your life. And so to know how mint mixes with teas, and you guys live it, you talk it.
Patrick's been doing it longer than I have, and I've learned so much from him. He's and that's what I found is that in order to be successful in this industry, you got to be all in. You got to really understand and geek out about it. Patrick and I will go to Whole Foods together and we can pull products off the shelf. We're talking about all sorts of things. We go to dinner together and be like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, what are you picking up on this? So
Any last words, Patrick?
You continually learn, things change, or as Jonathan mentioned, now mate is really growing. We were looking at it 10, 15 years ago.
yeah.
So it's been great working with Jonathan through all these times and kind of sharing a collaborative approach to how this all works, because everyone's going to keep challenging or pushing it, finding more reasons to try what's natural for us to enjoy.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Patrick, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, guys.
So there you have it, the holiday mint episode. When you see mint candy on the shelf at the grocery store, hopefully you'll have some fun facts to share with your in-laws. Big thanks to Patrick for joining us and to all of you for tuning in to the OG Spice Guy Show. I'm Jonathan Raju, wishing you a happy holidays, and just like menthol, stay cool.
The OG Spice Guy Show is produced and recorded by Galaxy Media in Los Angeles, California, in association with High Quality Organics, America's leading provider of organic spices. Executive producers are Jonathan Raju and Rob Clyde. Today's episode was produced by Rob Clyde and Max Flora. It was engineered and edited by Drew Unser. Graphics by Michelle Esteva, web and SEO by Rebecca McDonald, and social media is provided by Noel Mercer and Sophia Sherman. You can DM and follow us on all platforms and socials at OG Spice Guy.